Clap it. Yeah. 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 Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome back. This should be the first, technically the first sponsored video, not sponsored, the first ad generating video? I don't know how you... This is the first video where I'm a partner. Clap it. I'm a partner, and it's thanks to people like you. So if you're watching this, at the beginning, like, comment, share, subscribe. The little button should have flittered if you're watching on some... I don't know how it all works, but I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for the support. But that's the only piece of good news you're going to get in this news story segment. So I wanted to start up front, making you happy. Whenever they ask you, you want the good news first or you want the bad news? Always get the good news first. You want to be happy, and it makes the bad news a lot easier to ingest. But neither here or there. The stock market, today is August 5th. The stock market crashed, but really what is going on is a bunch of over-reliance on vibes and feelings about how people think the stock market should be going. And if I've ever seen a collective group of social media and all the major news markets, including Yahoo, well, not Yahoo, that's not fair. I didn't watch theirs directly, but CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of them are trying to bully Papa Powell. And I gotta say this, Papa Powell, if you're listening, don't give in. Keep those rates right where the fuck they are, because these companies thought they were about to make a smooth getaway by starving a bunch of people out from financial income and gains that their companies have been seeing record numbers for, while having the audacity to overinvest and overhype their own index so that they could make capital gain returns on their own investments and stock portfolios, all while hoping that the interest rates are going to drop, therefore giving them the ability to basically rent money for free again, right? And I hope the Federal Reserve sees the smokescreen that is being presented by the false numbers in these, and not all of them are adequately false, in the sense that the numbers are changing. But why they're changing and the narrative of why they're changing needs to be eloquently stated. And I got about four to five reasons why I think the stock market is experiencing not a drop off. I think it needs to be recontextualized as an adjustment. And why these type of adjustments are so important, to why they have to happen, what I'm going to be doing while this adjustment is happening, what you can possibly be doing. And hey, if you don't know anything about the stock market and you're like, oh, I've been wondering when I can get in the stock market, boom, there goes my link. Go ahead and use my link and you'll get some free stocks and you'll be able to join Webull. It'll also be in the description of this video wherever you're watching it. So without any further ado, let's take a look at, I find Yahoo Finance to be probably one of the more fair and balanced versions of the news. So I'll read a little bit of this, but then particularly I'll go over my assessment that I went over and how AI, Japan, fake job numbers, and trying to bully Papa Powell is not going to work. All right, here we go. Stock market news today. Global stocks rout depends on Dow Jones plunge over 1,100 points. S&P 500, Nasdaq sink 3%. Wall Street stocks sells off invested in a major way Monday as concerns mounted over health of the U.S. economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, DJI, fell 1,000 points. The Nasdaq Composite was crushed by more than 3.4%. The S&P 500 lost cascade nearly 3%, and the worst day since 2022, capping the worst start to any month since 2002. Whew. That's bad. Wall Street fears gauge the CBOE Volatility Index touched its highest level since the early days of COVID-19 pandemic before retreating. Treasury yield fell with the benchmark 10-year Treasury yield index hovering near 3.8%. Volatility. Okay, and I'll say this. No, the Feds have not changed their mind, and and I don't think the Feds should change their mind. But volatility in the market is literally the number one thing they warn everybody about in the market. What do they say before you join the market? Hey, the market is volatile. You need to have an entry strategy, and more importantly, you have to have an exit strategy. Volatility doesn't dictate your strategies. Your investments, return on investment should dictate your exit strategy. Volatility is what we call the market. That should come relatively normal and accepting to everybody. But for them to use volatility as the reason, as the underpinning reason why things are crazy, no, it's not because of volatility. It's because of what caused the volatility. Hopefully they'll dig more into that. But volatility is not enough for me to. It shouldn't be enough to cause record lows, right? Shouldn't be enough to cause record lows in the stock market. That's not, or peak situations of tragedy. No, that shouldn't be enough. The global stock market rapidly sold off after Friday lackluster U.S. job report. Yeah, so the job reports is definitely one of the reasons we want to talk about. That's going to be highlighted at the top. To concerns about the economy and the weather, the Federal Reserve had waited too long. Yeah, they're already starting to point at the Feds are the reason. The Feds are the reason that this is happening, guys. Come on, guys. Let's not point fingers here. Of note, almost 100% of bets are on the central bank to cut rates by 0.5%, but it's by its September meeting, according to the CME Fed Watch tool. Some of the biggest companies in the stock market saw their values plummet. Apple declined by 5% amid sell-off, and a new Berkshire Hathaway had cut its stake in the company in half. Nvidia pulled back 6%, Tesla fell 4%. The crypto bros are also crying too. But this is the extent that I want to go into this, at least this depth of it. And I wanted to pull out some of my notes that I took from listening to the news on my way to work and talking to people at work and just hearing multiple stories on this. And I want to link, if I can find her image on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and I'll probably link her YouTube. This person has some of the greatest takes. I've just recently found her. I want to think of a nickname for her, like, Mommy Money. She's a millennial who does super well with like stock and social economics. She gives out great advice, and her website is kind of dog water. So like, I want to give her. I'm gonna be like, I'll sell you a web. I want to redo her website and sell it to her for $1 or some shit like that, and just have her say, "Hero made this for you." All right. So what do we want to get into here? The stock market is witnessing a readjustment. I'm gonna just call it that. It's a readjustment. There's been a lot of flutter and a lot of false advertisement about how well the stock market and the economy's been doing, and a lot of people have been trying to say dumb shit like, "Oh, inflation is as low as it's ever been." No, bread is $6.34. Bread is $6.34. And that's the first time I've had to look at bread prices, because I was able to look at my bank account from 4 years ago. One thing I like to do is keep itemized items of things that I bought like yearly. So I always like to see when the prices of something was that is most. And bread 4 years ago was at $3.49. So it's kind of crazy. That was just a very glaring punctuation on that. Bread is the most expensive it's been in a long time. Shout out to Pete Buttigieg for price fixing bread in Toronto. But also, it's the fifth. It's the fifth. Friday was the margin calls for over 19% of the S&P 500 and collective Dow Jones. That means a lot of people had a lot of calls coming to date that they didn't have the money to cover, so they had to do a sell-off. What's a sell-off? That's when bills come owed, and it's the end of the month. Hey, shout out, it's the first of the month. People got bills to pay. You feel me?
Oh yeah.
We need that money. We need that money. So people had to sell off a lot of shit to cover the investments they made that no one was prepared to. Let me be absolutely clear. The diamond hands, but the bro call mentality, like calls and puts and the option bros, they came home to roost. Those venture capitalists and those margin bros, their bills and their debts came to roost. And when you don't have the money to cover those contracts, you definitely going to sell some shit off, right? But the number one reason why this is happening is because of the poor job markets. And we've covered 2 videos about this. We've covered 2 videos about this that shows that they have a peak interest of hiring people by showing that the hiring numbers are peaked out, but are not hiring anybody. So they want to show that the company has growth without having growth actually be valued as an input. And I think there needs to be some type of investment into investigation by the FTC, whoever's in charge, maybe the labor market, about this dubious claim. Because one of the more fascinating things I've found out while doing research here is that the CEO of Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn sits on the board of Microsoft, the second biggest company in the United States, but doesn't account for any of the tax proponents of it or count for the job numbers. The person who tells us how to get jobs is being told by the person who makes jobs that everything is okay and that you should keep telling the people who want jobs their jobs here. LinkedIn has had an influx of nearly 14% increase in applications. So how are the job market, if they're saying jobs are there, how aren't the jobs being filled? Another thing is CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and every single business tycoon or governor who went on TV today to say Papa Powell needs to drop the interest rates are trying to bully our economy. Businesses are trying to bully our thing. And this is the first time in a long time, not a long time, but this is the first time I've seen a collective effort from the news media and the businesses and corporations that own them to purposely push a narrative so blatant of it's not our fault. Whatever you do, don't blame the businesses. Blame Papa Powell. Blame the person who put the interest rates so high that we can't make money hand over fist anymore, and we want those days back. Companies are not losing. They're literally doing so well that they've been investing in AI. And without missing a beat, before we go to AI, put a pin in that. Pin, right? Let's talk about what happened around the world. In the UK and the European Union, they saw unnatural stability. And you're probably wondering, why did they see natural stability? Because when the dollar is weak, you go to the next best thing, the pound. The pound is a great reserve backup, so you saw them get a lot more investment into it, and they can only benefit from that. But one of the big 10 markets and part of the G7 is Japan. One thing that is an absolute sign, if you start seeing people who only go on vacation to Florida, like a vacation for them is to Florida or Las Vegas or even California because they live in the middle of nowhere, and you start all of a sudden hearing them say, oh, well, I'm going to go to South America or I'm going to go to Japan for vacation. Just know a bunch of venture capitalists, margin bros are also going there to take advantage of the currency manipulation. Now, I learned a little bit about currency manipulation when I was trying to be a Forex bro. And what I quickly found out was this is a bigger risk and a bigger scam. And we all know I'm a dividend investor. I'm allergic to risk. That's why when everyone's seeing a 13% drop off on their portfolios, I only saw a 1.7% drop off because I invest gracefully. You feel me? I invest gracefully. Dividend stocks. Hospitals aren't going anywhere. Might as well invest in their tech. But the yen, it was at an all-time low and at its weakest. It has ever been in the last, well, not ever been, but in the last decade, it's been the weakest it's ever been. And what the Forex bros were doing was basically heading over to Japan to make investments to buy up yen and then convert it into assets that are bought with USD, that they would then use collateral to take out a future investment. So basically, you take your high value dollar, buy a bunch of a certain value, multiply and separate all of those values and put them into different buckets. It's quite complicated, and even I don't quite understand it to the best of my ability. You didn't come here for the fucking number crunches. You came here for the vibes. You feel me? But at the end of the day, the Japanese banks caught on to this trope and decided to uptick the prices. So the returns that they would have normally gotten kind of vanished because the value of the yen has now increased, which would then cause people to panic, sell their yen to get it back out for the dollar, which they believe is more valuable. But then that trade-off doesn't make sense because now the yen is at valued. The amount that you'll have to pay in yen to get back the equal amount is going to be twice as high. You don't want to spend twice as much. So now you have to keep your investments in yen, which only has basically a whiplash effect of making the yen stable because the people don't want to take a L, so they'll just hold on to the yen. Fascinating concept, and great on the Japanese banks to catch on to this and make an appropriate adjustment to help their people. Keep in mind, Japan has a huge social economic issue that is being really projected and tried and trilled because the youth of their country don't feel like they can work there anymore. The work culture in Japan is too stressful. They also have a situation where their loneliness spikes have caused people to lose interest in going outside or doing anywhere. Tourists make up a huge part of their revenue. But even that's becoming a little bit annoying because by some of these losers going to like some of the more rural places, they're just making a mockery of it, right? And destroying a lot of the valuables there. But now we can talk a little bit about AI. And the thing about AI that you have to come to terms with is a lot of these assholes, these owners, these companies, these CEOs, they bought the hype. They bought into the hype. They saw a situation where a bunch of people could be replaced. Like imagine someone tells you there's a robot we're going to use to replace a bunch of workers, and you dump an unnatural amount of money. Let's use Microsoft as an example. You dump $13 billion into a company so that they can make this robot that's going to replace your workforce. And then after giving them $13,000 without asking any questions, they come back to you and say, we need $6 billion more. Imagine it, like, now that we know what AI is really going to be, which is just the more advanced Google search, they have invested in the infrastructure pipeline for OpenAI, just for OpenAI to take that money and basically invent infrastructure so that they can put their tech on their competitors' phones. Now they're explaining to them, oh, by the way, in order for us to run these data centers, your data centers are inadequate. They need twice the amount of electricity. They generate so much heat and an off-putting ambient noise. The noise that is produced by these data centers and these hive minds of data houses for AI is disrupting ecosystems. There's a story about how Microsoft tried to do testing to see if they could use underwater deep submerging encoder in the Atlantic. They're trying to submerge it into the water. They never thought about the issue that would come from investing in AI. They only were worried about the results. And what do you know? The results aren't paying way. It's been since 2023. Let's just say it's been a year of the AI craze, and the return on investment is nowhere near apparent. Warren Buffett, we even saw it in this article, took all of his money out of Apple before the holiday season, before their new phones drop. That means he doesn't believe that they're going to get the bang that they're going to get. And the trajectories show that. This is an iPhone 12 Pro Max. I'm not buying a new phone until this one breaks. For what? And in addition to that, their $13 billion initial investment plus their $6 billion investment afterwards, they thought laying off 13,000 people, 13% of their workforce was going to cover that. Why don't we hold these scumbag ass companies like to a higher standard? Nintendo CEO, when the Wii U flopped, took a salary of $1 for the year so that he didn't have to fire anybody. America's the only place where you can constantly fail and be rewarded for it. And I get why the worst people go into positions of power, because nothing has ever shown that they would get punished for making trash bag decisions. Intel created a chip that was literally so bad that they lost 40%. They saw 4% of their market value evaporate after one call. The chips are so bad they can't be fixed. So for me, the AI bubble, AI is still going to be AI. I'm not an AI doomer. I use it too much. I've been using it for so long. It's not thing, but it's never going to do what these businesses think they're going to do. And when it's time for the roosters to come back home, who's going to be eating that crow, man? Who's going to pick up the pieces of these companies in the people's lives that short? Bungie, with their layoffs, like, it's just crazy the amount of layoffs that have happened in tech, and no one seems to be innately aware of when they're going to make a return on their investment. And then finally, the last part, it's wartime, baby. You want to know which stocks didn't have any issues in the last 24 hours? Deloitte, Lockheed Martin, AMD, Aerospace Technology, and a bunch of utility fuel companies, gas companies that refine crude oil and jet fuel. Have your pick. They didn't see anything. In fact, two of them saw a bump. Two of them got a bump. The geopolitical situation that's going on right now is very tense. Iran, Israel, and Russia all have the capacity to put every major country in the first world setting on their heels. And don't be discouraged. During wartime, America makes money. In fact, it's one of the more crazier times because America is able to lease out some of its debt by giving its debt to other countries, right? By saying, hey, yeah, we'll offer you these things if you buy our debt from us. We'll give you our debt and we'll give you a discount on our stuff, but you got to pay us a little bit more. So America finds a way to make hella good money during wartime. And with the aggressions that, we're not a political channel, but with the aggressions that are happening overseas right now, it is far from, it's not hard to believe that we're heading towards mass critical. And it's one of the rare times, this is one of the rare times in America's history where we do not have a direct line of battle. We are supplying ammunitions. I think we supplied the first F-16 for oversight to Ukraine. That's a rare, I don't think I've ever seen America run this many proxy wars at this time publicly, and to see how the economy will work on that. We don't have to invest in our own troops. We just have to create technology that we can make on on a fucking band. Like, we can literally just stamp, print, and make the technology to give to people and lower our international debt that way. Sounds phenomenal. But in order to do that, you gotta generate drama, which unfortunately for us spells bloodshed. So we don't want that. But those are the 4 things that I think are causing this stock market. And once again, I don't think that we're heading towards a recession. Not even on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being yes we're going, 1 being we're not. I think we're probably like -2. But this isn't financial advice, right? This is just my feelings and the vibes, bro. Okay, you didn't come here for the numbers. You came here for the vibes. So what am I doing? This is once again not financial advice. I'm buying the goddamn dip. If it's red, it's in my bed. If it's green, it's gonna be lean. All right. I'm bringing people home to my bed. Come get these quality pumps. Come get these quality pumps. You feel me? But I'm also holding. I'm not panicking. Once again, I'm very well divested. I am a dividends investor, so all those things are cool and great for me. And I think the number one thing you should do right now, if you're at home, sitting on the couch, watching the news, hearing all these bad things, and this is playing in front of you, what I need you to do, and this is going to help you, this is advice, is to please turn off cable news, okay? Clap it. Turn off cable news. They're here to scare you. They're not the vibe. What you should do is like, share, and subscribe. Coding with Strangers. We have a great thing going on here. But I'm interested to know what you're investing in. I'm interested to know what you're doing. Did I say anything that you remotely found interesting? Did any of you guys make it to the end? If any of y'all made it to the end of this, put a 1 in the chat. Not you guys that are watching this right now. I mean the people that are watching the video version of this, okay? But like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the other side. This has been a great video. Proud of you guys. Proud of you.